Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for the Glory Alliance Purda. And here's a size comparison. You can see this figure is definitely more leader class than Voyager. And here's the instructions, nothing too interesting. There is a QR code up here, but it just leads to like a one-page website that just has transformation instructions. It doesn't show anything interesting, unfortunately. And here's the 360 view of this figure. It looks great. Like everything is nicely symmetrical. Everything lines up with each other. The proportions are very nice, and it's a little bit taller than the other figures, just like a slight bit. And then the head sculpt on this one isn't as annoying as the other ones. I'll show you why when we get a closer look. But everything's just nice and clean and just fits together. Really gives that futuristic vehicle vibe. Yeah, it looks really great. Like kind of like a Gundam. Yeah, really a fan of this aesthetic. It's definitely a 10 for me. I love all the clear plastic too. That's always good for like an extra point. And then if we look at the head sculpt here, this head sculpt is not as annoying as the head sculpts on the other figures because you can see that the collar of the shirt kind of covers up the combined mode legs. If I like pull the head off here, you can see this is what the head looks like normally, and it's got all this ugly kibble down here. But because of this collar, it actually hides that a little bit and makes the head look more proportional. You can kind of almost view it as just a regular robot mode head, and the horns are nice little distractions too. So the head of this guy just looks better than, let's say, for example, Magician here, whose head is also okay, but you can see those ball joints underneath the chin a little bit more, which kind of makes his head uglier compared to this. Maybe I'm just being biased because I like just the evil vibe this figure gives off. It definitely looks like one of those enemy characters who ends up helping out the hero, like a rival. But yeah, really great blue plastic. I'm just loving everything about the way this figure looks. Just really works for me. And it does have some interesting accessories. So the first thing you can do is it's got like this hinge joint where the guns on the back are. So you can kind of hinge this up and you can telescope these out to have like shoulder cannons. So that's a pretty cool look. That definitely makes the figure look intimidating. But then you can also just pull off one of these cannons. They're on this like weird shaped tab right here. Like that's what the slot looks like. And then you can pull off like these booster skirts. You just take one of those off too, and that's got like a weird differently keyed slot. Like that's just very strange. But it's got like a different slot, and then you can just peg these two things together. And now you've got, and then the handle of this rifle just folds down, and now you got this giant rifle that Purda can just fit in its hand here. Unfortunately, the hands, because they have opening fingers, are very loose. If the handles were wider, this would probably fit better. And then it's got these loose ball joints in the wrist too, so that's not doing it any favors. So the figure can't really hold these rifles. Like, it's just not going to happen. These rifles are just too heavy. The fingers are too weak. The wrist is too weak. So that's definitely a knock against the quality on this figure. That's just like some floppiness that is just really unfortunate and hurts the playability. If this was nice and solid and it could actually hold the rifles, that would be awesome. And it's got two of them, but you can see one is already like very intimidating. And you can use, another problem with the quality of this figure is there's this blue plastic here and it gets in the way of the bicep rotation. So you have to like stress the plastic to rotate the bicep. And then it's going to get locked into this position because it just can't get by this plastic, which is really annoying. So I'm probably going to have to trim that up with a hobby knife. But because of that bicep rotation, you can get a cool two-handed rifle holding pose. So that's That's a great look. I have to admit, I really love the way that looks. Even if he can't really two-hand his weapons, this is not bad looking. Like these are just really cool looking weapons. And then you get a lot of flexibility with the storage. You could actually just, there's like a attachment point here. There's these ones on both sides here. So you could like attach it back to the backpack here and then just have it there for storage, or you could even use the barrel and attach it way up here so that the handles stick out, and that's going to change the silhouette of the figure a little bit. But then you have the handles down here so it can kind of just reach back and like grab this weapon. So that's really cool. And then the other option is you store the two parts separately, so like as a hip skirt and then as just an over-the-shoulder cannon here. But yeah, let's try to get him. Let's see what he looks like holding both cannons. Why not? This is kind of the best I can do. This wrist actually holds up okay. It just would have been better if he had swivel wrists instead of these ball joints, which of course would become floppy. But you can kind of get him with his two rifles, which is just a ridiculous look. And then he can't bicep swivel out because the blue plastic is blocking it, of course. So it's definitely going to have to be trimmed out. But yeah, if you could hold the weapons better, this would be a much more fun figure. But that definitely hurts the playability of this figure. But man, these are just ridiculous weapons. And they kind of don't lock in place when you telescope them, unfortunately. Would have been nice if there was a little friction stop right there. But yeah, that's really cool. So best weapons out of the group by far. And then as far as articulation goes, you do have like head swivel. And then of course, like these beady red eyes just make the figure look so evil. And then you get 360 on these ratchets right here. And then the shoulder kind of clips into there. So maybe not a full 360, but all the range you'd need. And then you get a good strong outward click. So you get full outward. And then you have what looks like double jointed elbows, but you're only going to get 90 degrees. Yeah, there's not really a way to manipulate them better than that. So the double joint ends up giving you 90 degrees. And then ball joint wrists, of course, and then these opening fingers. And that's another kind of problem with holding these weapons is the fingers just, it just doesn't fit in the palm correctly. It could have used a slot system like most figures with articulating fingers have. And then he does have this waist skirt which moves out of the way, and then you can see the typical universal joints. It's kind of the same joints they have in the shoulder. So you get the outward, forward, backward kick, you get a thigh swivel, no ratchets, and then you get double jointed knee, so you can get about 90 degrees, a little bit more than 90 degrees in the knee, like 100 degrees. And then you get like this nice plastic so that the knee sculpt doesn't just totally break. So that's very nice. And then you get ball jointed ankles, but because they're like nested in here, you're not going to get a lot of range out of them. All the surrounding leg armor kind of gets in the way, but that's okay. Like I just like how beefy this figure is. And transformation is really simple. I think this is the figure where they kind of just gave up on the vehicle mode and just decided to make a really cool looking robot, it seems like. But you're going to transform the head just like all the other ones. You got to kind of wrestle this top shield piece out, which is very difficult. And then you just unfold the legs and you unfold the arms. And this piece technically comes off, but it's kind of a waste of time. You might as well just leave it on. It's like a small piece that you could easily lose. And then you get your core robot mode, and then this just clips into the hole in his back. And then you get a very cool looking robot with like these two antennae. I kind of wanted the head robot for this guy, but his face looked a little fat. I think the blue one looked cooler. But yeah, I really do dig these horns. Definitely sets him apart from all the other head robots. And then you can see how tiny he is compared to his body here. But yeah, for transformation, you're just going to open up the chest, and that's going to become the cockpit, and you flip that open, and then there's this hatch which flips open down here, and then you can swing out the nose cone, and that's already the front of the vehicle pretty much. You're just going to straighten out the arms, close the fists up, and then you want to straighten the legs the best you can, which is a little bit difficult. You can see there's a tab here between the shins, and then there's these little tiny little clips, and that kind of clips the arms into place when you straighten them out. So you want to get that all clipped in, and then you just fold the shoulders down, and then you're going to fold these vent pieces up. So you can see like the front of the vehicle will have these vents, and then you telescope the legs all the way down, and then they've got like a little bit of a recess for the fingers to fit in. And then you're just going to fold in the toes, fold back the heels, and then fold up these little tail fins, fold out the side fins and out of the arms. And now you have his basic submarine mode, which looks, I mean, let's be honest, this is just the robot kind of laying down with its arms and legs by its side. And then you take the gun pieces and you're going to put the extension pieces back into the back hips, and then you can click these closed so they point straight back. And then you're going to point the handle up, telescope this down, and then you're going to use the top of the barrel connector, and you want the blasters to face forward, and you're just going to peg these back into the backpack, which can be a little bit hard because these are on like a hinge joint to give you a little bit more range of motion when they're on his back, so things kind of get out of the way. But there you go, that's what the vehicle mode is going to look like from the side. And then here's your whole submarine or spacecraft. I don't know what this is meant to be. This is a little bit droopy, unfortunately, but you can see like all the coolness of the robot mode like takes away from this vehicle mode. Is just kind of nothing. You could also rotate this all the way around if you wanted to. I don't know if that's necessary. It doesn't really do anything. And you can see there's just no space. There's really nowhere you can put the core robot. You can almost get it into head mode and put it back into this connector, but it's just not going to fit in there. There's not enough space. So this is like your submarine. And then the robot standing next to it, which is way too big compared to this tiny little cockpit. But I don't know. I kind of like this vehicle mode. It's very space age. It's cool. The colors, of course, are really awesome. And you can see compared to Starscream, he's actually about the same size. So he compresses a lot. He gets smaller, but he's definitely bulkier than this jet, since the whole robot body is in like the fuselage here, and then this robot body is just spread everywhere. But yeah, pretty cool robot. I really dig it. It's probably my favorite from the whole line. The yellow robot was really cool too, though. So that's it for this review. Definitely check out my robots that I'm selling. That helps me fund these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.